Cue funky music. Sports scientists, we're back. James Hoffman, Marcos Rodriguez, and Mike Israetel.
Do we still have the music intro?
Well, we just got a new one. That was pretty good.
Marcos, that was impressive in like the 5th grade.
Ooh. Dr. Israetel to stage 2, Dr. Israetel to stage 2. That's the fog machine. That's when you're stripping. Ooh. Sort of like you do with Charlie on Instagram already.
Oh, no.
Damn. Just barbs.
Coming out, barbs. Guns blazing. Guns blazing.
I'm just jealous.
Let's get to work here. I got a good 30 to 45 minutes of putting up with you assholes today.
All right. Don't let me catch you in the movie theater, son. I'm going to shoot you right in the fucking head.
Ooh. You sound white.
Sorry, it's sad.
That's what white people do. They shoot people in the theaters. Tell me I'm wrong.
I'm doing the Michael Jackson popcorn. Just watching you guys go at it today.
Yeah, that's like some Dylan Klebold type of shit. You know,
Dylan, you son of a bitch.
Look at you. You're wearing this black coat and you don't have any friends. That's not good.
You look like my goat. Wait, do I even have a goat? I don't even know. I have a little donkey and a dwarf horse. Yeah. Lulu and Juju, I don't even know what their names are. I call this one Primo and this one Deca.
Primo and Deca.
Which one is Deca? The one with more water retention. Primo's the more ripped one. Yeah.
Deca's got the more side effects. All right, let's get to work here on these questions, Marcos. People need your wisdom, not just your Arnold impressions. The question I posed to Instagram was training psychology. And the first decent one.
That's a statement.
From... That's true. It's a command for questions.
Command. Yeah, there you go.
Quality Fit JV, Jonathan Vermeulen from Belgium, asks, have you ever had a period where you were constantly worried about injuring yourself, especially while performing heavier lifts? If so, how did you get past this?
I definitely did. When I did some of those way back in the day pictures for RP, when I got real shredded, I felt like my muscles were just about to blow at any moment. And I remember doing some of those lifts. I just felt like I was so overreached and so much wear and tear. I was doing my last couple sessions and I was just like, I literally feel like at any moment I could snap at any point. And that's when I called it and was just like, you know what, let's get these pictures done and wrap this up. Cause I feel like I'm going to just get hurt the next time I do anything.
God damn.
Yeah. It sounds like you achieved Ultra Instinct.
Not even close, dude. Not even close. So far.
Far
from Ultra Instinct. Mike, have you seen the Ultra Instinct stuff yet?
No.
God damn it. Fuck.
Loser. I don't know. I guess when I was training more like a gym bro without following a program, my body was just constantly sore and I didn't know what the fuck I was doing and just barreling into the gym and just trying to kill myself. Yeah, I was like getting injured all the time. But I think if you follow proper programming, you don't have to worry about that. And if something hurts, you just cut back where you have to. It's not that. With great power comes great responsibility.
Nice tie-in. Very nice.
I have to deal with that all the time because I have several injuries that I'm not sure in the nature of them, but they don't ever really heal. My pecs are permanently fucked up, and so are my triceps. And they got fucked up from acute overreaching, like doing too much volume in a period of several weeks. And anytime I do a little bit too much volume or intensity or both and create too much muscle damage, if I do 1 or 2 extra sessions like that in sequence, then there's like a pull and essentially like a small injury occurs and it takes a few weeks to get back to normal. So, and then also over the years, my adductors, I've not had that same thing, but my adductors will overreach and then I'll get adductor pulls. So I have to manage my volume there. And sometimes it just happens and I don't really have any control over it. Actually, before the quarantine, I hurt my adductor hack squatting, just of all things. And I had no idea that it was going to get hurt. And it just
adductor's a bitch, man.
Yeah. So they just, they're really exposed to a lot of tension and stretch. So,
if I may, doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So did this all start happening before or around you started doing jiu-jitsu or before?
No,
I mean,
way like 10 years before I ever did jiu-jitsu.
and now how do you handle those type of injuries with jiu-jitsu? Because I was getting fucked up while I was trying to train and do jiu-jitsu at the same time.
Yeah, I had some minor injuries in jiu-jitsu, but nothing too crazy because I did probably aggravate some adductor stuff with jiu-jitsu just because it's more adductor volume. But I had hurt my adductors many times before doing jiu-jitsu, unrelated. So yeah, there's no obvious. The adductor thing is a little bit more understandable, but the chest and tricep thing is a huge mystery. So
You know what sucks too with the adductors? I don't know if you guys experienced this, but like I can use a lot of different squat variations. I can do cambered bar, I can do close stance, I can do pause, and I can really get a good SFR on my quads. But the moment I switch back to just regular high bar squats, it fucks my adductors like into another dimension where they clearly, to me, they had been deconditioning to some degree, or at least not exposed to the same amount of training. Because when I switch back, one set of high bar squats and I'm immediately overreached on my adductors. And I'm like, how? I've been squatting this whole fucking time. The answer is that I've done a good job modifying my technique to get more of a quad emphasis. But then like when you go back, they overreach. It's awful. It takes like a week and a half to get better.
yeah,
You should try squeezing watermelons with your legs.
Or get a thigh master.
it's a good idea.
You're welcome.
Yeah, on the injury front, though, like answer Jonathan to answer your question, there's always some risk of injury, and like what Marco said, like doing jiu-jitsu, anytime you roll with anyone, you can get hurt. I got a little hurt rolling quite recently, and I just something that you go in and you've done your best. Like, so for example, if something's like my tricep feeling weird and I know it's going to get hurt, I modify my training or really ease into it, take lots of warm-ups and do everything I can to reduce the probability. But after you've done everything you can to reduce the probability and it's time to apply overload or time to train, you just have to be aware, have a good mind-muscle connection, be super particular about your technique, and otherwise exert a high degree of effort. And you just have to sort of let the chips fall where they may, because sometimes you get hurt. And honestly, like this is something Dr. Stone, our advisor at ETSU, told James and I. He didn't actually know if there was any correlation between not injury in general, but like pretty serious injury and state of preparedness, because sometimes when you're the strongest and feel the best, that's when you can produce the most force to get hurt real bad. And sometimes when you have a high level of fatigue, though you cannot produce super high forces, your tissues are sort of pre-torn and pre-worn, and then you can really get hurt too. So it's not even a point of being like, okay, well, when my fatigue is really high, I start to really be careful. You should be careful all the time, but at the same time, sometimes injuries just happen. And also, I think it's really easy to get to be one of these people that's so injury averse that you're doing everything super easy and light and maybe not close to failure. And then it's difficult to make gains. So at some point, you can't eliminate injury. And there's tons of PTs and other people on the internet that say like, injury is really predictable and this is how you can avoid it by doing these prehab. And they're all wrong.
Prehab.
Make believe.
Prehab.
And at that point too, you're doing a lot of training. You're doing training to not get hurt rather than training to progress in fitness skills, tactics, etc.
Yeah, and then you won't get any better. So it's kind of training's pointless at that point. So I think at some point you do best practices to make sure you're not doing anything obviously stupid, auto-regulate well, have always good technique, and then at that point, sometimes you get hurt, and it's just something that happens.
Shit happens.
Yeah. Anything else to add to that, or should we move to the next?
Let's move on.
Marcia Belai says, how should you train if you're a psychologist?
That's a good question.
Marcos, you've had sex with many psychology undergrads. What was that like?
Depends what kind of archetype you're looking for.
Go on.
I don't know. You look for some complexes that fill your needs of the day and go forth. How many fingers can I fit in this person's mouth? I don't know.
Right. So basically, you're looking for people that
are we talking about training?
Right. You're looking for people that have all like tells about what they're needy somewhere. Something's not fitting right, and you're going to be the guy to swoop in and give them for the next several hours what they think they need.
They've been trying to push that square into that circle. It's just not fitting right, and then Dr. Rodriguez shows up
with the spiritual loop. I get you, James. I like where you're going with this. You got it.
All right.
Undergrads are very good at that.
So are grads.
Undergrads are good at putting square pegs into round holes. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, and then having just brute force lubing them through.
Woof. Sounds like some papers I've written in undergrad. Just drive a point home, even though you know it's wrong. Isn't that the point of the assignment? All right. So next question, actually a very good one from Muhammad Nader. He says, do you guys think that the idea of self-worth and confidence can be derived from training and sports accomplishments, or should it be derived from somewhere else in life?
I mean, it can be derived from any number of sources and not limited to training. I think training can be one of them. I think it's your intrinsic value comes from the things that you personally value. So we can't really, as people who are not you, tell you what is right or wrong. If it's something that you think that enriches your life and gives you satisfaction and allows you to wake up and feel excited and feel engaged about it, that's perfectly fine. I don't think that you have to include training. I don't think that you have to exclude it either. It could be something, could be nothing, just like anything else.
But I think training does help.
Yeah, I think training, there's a combination of intrinsic and extrinsic value that you get from training. Some of it's like you might want to look good to get approval of other people or high fives or likes on Instagram or any combination of those things. And then some people just, like myself, could give two shits about that. And they just want to train because it's just something that they feel compelled to do and they enjoy it. You know what I mean? So there's some middle ground for most people, I think.
Mm-hmm. Marcos, what do you think, man?
I mean, yeah, it's I wasn't cool like you kids growing up, but training definitely helped me build up my confidence. Just mostly because I knew that my own discipline and everything I was doing was getting me to where I wanted to go, and that's a good feeling when you actually accomplish your goals. So,
would you say that in the harsh realities of the inner city, training was the only thing that you could rely on that was dependably there?
No, I mean, I could have rapped, I could have sold crack and played basketball, but
you were not good at
that's a
any of
Dave
those
Chappelle
things.
joke. Allegedly. No, I'm kidding.
The thing with like fitness though is there's always the thing where that might fall short and commonly does for men and women alike is that there's always somebody who's more fit than you in whatever capacity you want that to be, whether they look better, they're bigger, they're leaner, they're faster, stronger, etc. So sometimes it can be hard if you're relying on a lot of that extrinsic value when you're constantly bombarded with like, oh wait, well here's this other person who has all the same goals that I have, but they're just better than me. And there's always that next level up. So I think sometimes like if your value is misplaced, that could be a bad one potentially. Yeah.
What do you think he means by, or should it be derived somewhere else in life? It's almost as if Muhammad is implying that, and I'm not taking him to task on this, it's just an honestly interesting question. What the fuck?
Go ahead.
Marcos, your girl popping off at the mouth, Jeff, feel me? Nah, family, I'm trying to make this money on this podcast.
Go ahead.
Just put their frying pans in that fucking kitchen is all I'm going to say. So he's basically,
easy.
He seems to be implying that like, you shouldn't, maybe there's something bad about deriving your self-confidence from like lifting accomplishments and physique. And maybe he's been told by other people that, well, you shouldn't really base your self-worth on your gym stuff. You got to base it on other stuff, which is like, better. What would that stuff be?
Narcissism.
Yeah. I think like it's hard I don't think that anybody gets their value from just one particular thing. It's usually a combination of things and maybe they're related, maybe they're not. I think like what the person was probably if somebody was to tell you that you shouldn't value fitness that much, they're probably trying to prevent you from falling into things like body dysmorphia, eating disorders. So it's probably from like a really good place because a lot of people do fall into those traps. But there's plenty of other people who get immense fulfillment from doing fitness stuff every day, and they don't necessarily struggle with those issues, and that's perfectly fine too.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know how much confidence and self-worth even comes from. I don't know how much of it comes from life accomplishments. I think a vast majority of it is genetic. And
of course, you would say that.
Yeah. And then I think that it's good to get it from anywhere you can a lot of times because it's maybe so lacking. And that like if it's coming from someplace, I wouldn't be like, oh no, I shouldn't derive it from there. I think there's a difference between sort of vulgar pride of like, I have a great body, that means I'm the man, versus being like, you know what, I feel pretty good about what I've done here. And like, maybe not exactly what I've done here, like, okay, I'm jacked, but I feel good about my having dedicated myself to this, and I'm proud of what I have to show for it. I don't think that's a bad thing, and I think that that's totally fine. And it also doesn't mean you can't derive your confidence from other areas where you could just get better at other stuff. You know what I mean? Like maybe you can also take that to your schoolwork or some other stuff.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Well said, Michael.
Thank you. Thank you. Miles Smith says a question, sort of. Mental block at certain landmarks, such as 315 bench, 405 squat, and 495 dead. Miles, you'll notice
that's a physical block. That's
so
because you're not strong enough, boy.
Right. Let me actually answer that question based on James's answer, because James' answer fundamentally correct. So the thing is, like, if you have to get super psyched up and it's psyching you out to lift 315 or 495 or 405, you're probably just not strong enough to do it dependably yet. So when you get stronger, at some point you put it on the bar and it just moves and you're like, huh, there it is, block on. Now I will say that some people have some fear about lifting certain weights. If you don't know how to channel fear into aggression, then you will have a mental block that prevents you from lifting the weight. Like you just don't believe, like somebody, I know how it feels. So you put 495, like 5 plates on the deadlift, you put it on the ground and go pick it up. Even if someone warmed up to it, it's something about that 5 plates psychs them out. But that basically means their fear and anxiety turns inward and it sort of limits their performance. It's a good thing to be able to cultivate turning anxiety outward into aggression, not anywhere in everyday life except for in the gym. I used to be very, very good back when I was a powerlifter at taking my anxiety and turning it into outward expression of maximum force production, so much so that my squats in competition and my lifts in competition in general were way higher than they were in training. Because in training, I didn't have the nervousness to replicate that sort of thing, or certainly not do it dependably. But I remember like when like it was time for me to squat, like especially like, you know, second, third attempts at a meet, and it would say like, you know, Mike Israetel or whatever, if I pronounce my last name, butcher the fuck out of it. They'd be like 2 out or like on deck. And when I heard that, I would actually be like controlling my shaking, and it would be hard for me to put my wrist wraps on because I was like, oh my God, like I was so nervous. But like the shaking was the nervousness, and I was waiting to channel it into just fucking war. And as soon as I got that opportunity, as bars loaded, it was like super fun times because I could just let that shit Super Saiyan out of me. But like that's a cultivated skill. It doesn't come naturally to some people. Some people, when they get so much mental pressure, they just do the thing where they're like, oh, nope, I can't do it. To me, it was always like when I got that nervous, I saw this opening. It's like this nervousness was in this dark room, and I knew how to open the door to let it power something, like power some kind of machine on the other end. But that door doesn't open for everyone, obviously. And I think some people get, when the nervousness builds, they start to put locks on that door and like, nope. I got to sit in this room in this darkness. I don't know. Have you guys James, I know for a fact, you know how to channel that aggression because I've seen you do that shit.
I don't do it anymore.
No, for sure. Me neither. Does that come naturally to you, or just do you knew how to open it up, or was it times where you couldn't?
I think there was just times where I relied on it too much, and it was also like a state of emotional immaturity for myself, where I just had too much aggression that I was carrying around, and I just needed an outlet to let it go.
But you never had a problem releasing it.
No, I didn't. I think that like a little bit of fear and anxiety is a good thing because it also raises your alertness. And it's your body's way of saying like, hey, this is some real shit. You should be ready to go. But when it's crippling, right, that's when it becomes a problem. And if you're dealing with that and lifting a lot, I would say more often than not, the case is that you're probably using loads outside of, like what Mike was saying, outside of your capacity, at least on a reliable way. So usually what that would mean is just using some either bigger rep ranges or just some lighter intensities or some combination of both, right? So instead of loading up 315 to try and hit like an all out shit your pants triple, why not just do some 5s at 275 for a little while?
That's great. And then so here's the thing, and Marcos, we'll get to you in a sec, asking you about like how you turn it up or on, or do you ever like sort of cave in? But like James just said a really, really awesome thing. If you're really like, if the 495 scares the fuck out of you on the deadlift, but 455 for doubles doesn't, go to 435 and do sets of 4, and then 440 sets of 4, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. At some point, you're going to be doing sets of 4 with like 485. And then when the next week happens, take a little deload. The week after that, put 495 on the bar. But it's just mathematically, you're going to pull it for an easy single and be like, okay, I can just do this 5 times. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. Maybe you should, maybe you shouldn't. But like, you overcame it by never having it. It's not like because we do reps, it's not all 1RMs. Like if it was all 1RMs, like which with like clean and jerks and snatches, this is a bit different because it is usually 1RMs. It's not like you either lifted a lighter weight than this once and it's just time to elevate and go. You could potentially, if something really freaks you out, lift 5 pounds less than it up to like doing sets of 5. And then for sure you're going to be able to do that weight, right? That's a huge, huge way to get around that problem completely. The great thing is it doesn't delay your strength development because that sub-maximal lifting for multiple sets of 3 to 5 reps is what makes you even stronger than trying those new crazy weights. So not only will doing, 470, 475, 480, 485, and then trying 495 at some point, not only is that a great psychological way to get over the 495 thing because you just become so much stronger than it, then at some point you just fuck it up easy, but also it is the way you should be training anyway. So there shouldn't be a time, this is what really is a bad idea, and you guys have probably seen this in a bunch of gyms. Some guy hits 455 for a triple for the first time in the deadlift, and he's like, all right, next week or fuck it, next set, 495 for a single. Like, no shit, you'll shit your pants. You're not even sure you can do it. I'm not even sure you can do it. No one's sure you can do it. But if you've been doing triples with 480, a single at 495 is just like breathing at that point. Marcos, what do you think, man?
I love what James said about the emotional immaturity. I used to turn that on like crazy.
So you also had no problem putting it out.
No, but then it's funny as you get older and wiser, you're just like, I'll just deal with it. But being younger and like, having all that emotional rage, fucking just churning at all times, you could turn it on whenever, or at least I could. Just listening to Linkin Park and Disturbed or whatever other CrossFit douchebag soundtrack. Just kidding.
Yes.
Just kidding.
Check for both of those over here.
But it doesn't happen much now anymore. So I was never worried about it. Never worried about it now.
Yeah.
And those are the times you do get hurt, is when you fucking flip your shit and try and make a max effort.
Oh, yeah.
Dude. Those are the times all the times I've gotten hurt is when I was really going for like a crazy deadlift PR or something and I was losing my shit. And then all of a sudden like, oh, my back, my SI joint will flare up, or front squats was another one where I would try to go really hard on front squats and my SI would flare up always.
Yeah, I hear you on that. It's always a risk. All right. Andrew Hughes, 2000, better than the original version. The subject of enjoyment of training getting tied to your perception of how others perceive you while training. Example, someone who doesn't train well alone at home because they know there aren't other people watching them perform, so to speak. Marcos, you used to people watching you perform in another way. Get us started on that.
Say what? Which part?
Your adult film career, Marcos. You fucking, what are you trying to get on this podcast to sound like a fucking intellectual or hide your past? Let it out, motherfucker. Let it out. Ain't nobody watches this podcast anyway.
Now, again, I've never had that problem just because I was only lifting for myself. I didn't care about what anybody else who was in the gym or whatnot. And even now, working out at home by myself, I just have to. That may be like a rookie problem or beginner problem. I don't think anyone who's dedicated to the craft of the weights.
The Iron Brotherhood. I hate
Iron War.
Iron Warfare. I definitely had this issue when I was like in high school and stuff, and a little bit in college when it was like really cool for people to notice that you were super strong or super jacked, and like, especially like girls and stuff like that. But then a couple of things.
The girls never notice. It's always just other dudes.
Totally. But when you're stupid and young, you think girls notice, right?
Right.
So one of the things that refuted that was that I just realized girls just never notice. So I was like, well, if they don't notice, then I'm, whatever. That's
and it's just all gym bros like, hey, man.
How much do you bench? So the thing is like at some point you realize people don't actually care. And at other points you realize something a little bit more advanced, that sometimes people care and sometimes people don't. Like some people in the gym will give a shit and really give you props, and sometimes no one will say anything to you and no one will even look at you. And do you really want to anchor your gym experiences based on something so non-dependable? Like you could be having the workout of your lifetime, but you perceive it as shitty because no one's looking at you or ogling you or asking you questions about how you train your pecs. So like to me, I became very uncomfortable with just the philosophical realization and the experiential realization that I just didn't want to be dependent. I just didn't want to depend on other people's perceptions of my clearly focused interests. And also what happened was I became so obsessed with the mind-muscle connection and the sensation of a pump and the sensation of making sure I was pushing close enough to failure. And
I'm
just
under tension.
Dude, totally. We'll also just like get the fuck you, Mark.
Link in bio.
Link in bio. What is that? ASMR? What is that? Like, am I saying that right? Like the sort of pseudo ASMR of like just being able to have, like, you guys know, like when you have a real deep squat or deep leg press and you know your technique is perfect, there's just some kind of sublimity to that. That's just like, I know I'm doing it right. I know it's fucking up my muscles. I know it's causing growth. It's like everything good all happening at the same time. I started to focus so much on that. And before that, I was a powerlifter on rep progressions and weight progressions that you just sort of doesn't really matter who the fuck else is around. I do like gyms and the mirrors are cool. The lighting is cool. And I do like to be around other like people. Like, just it's nice to see people working out and just different people. It's cool. It's nice. But like, if there's too many of those people, I'll put it this way, if none of them are watching me and I'm having a great workout, I love it. If everyone's watching me and I'm having a great workout, I sort of like some combination of it's just fine to like, oh, I really wish everyone wasn't watching me because look, folks, one trick pony. This is all I got. I don't know what else you want to know. But like, so it's one of those things where I became at some point so self-focused on this and derived so much enjoyment from the actual act. Like right now, Charlie and I, we just fucking lift at home and we're fucking, well, lift is not all we do. It's so much for us. I will say, like, workouts that you can post on Instagram have now sort of replaced that function of lifting for others, right? But then again, like, sometimes Instagram likes your workout or your look that day, and sometimes it doesn't, and that's also not super dependable. And at the end of the day, like, it's funny, like, when I take pictures and videos of myself in training, most of that is for me. Some of it ends up on Instagram, much of it does not. I just like rewatch that sometimes between sets and like check my technique, make sure I'm doing things right. And sometimes just like, man, a good looking set of squats. That looks great. That feels great. And it's not like I'm proud of myself. It's literally like ASMR. I'm like, oh God damn, I fucked up that set of bent rows. And a lot of it's just from actually doing the set and being in the muscle in the moment. Like, you know, like a deep stretch at the bottom of that row. I'm just like, oh God, this is therapy. Like, if that happens, then I don't need anyone else really.
Wouldn't you say that's an advanced kind of feel though? It's not really like novice or beginner. You're just like, oh.
No, it's very advanced.
They're always chasing something and they don't know that it's that.
Yeah, I think the proper focus really for people who have a long-term view, for beginners, they should pride themselves on really good technique. And that establishes really, really great
and base. Unbelievable amounts of natchiness.
Yeah, exactly. Natchy. Are you natty? Somebody asked that today on one of my pictures hilariously. Are you natty, Dr. Mike? Of course. It's the day I was born. It's the day I was engineered in the Soviet biosciences lab. But
yeah, I agree. I think those are really good points. And just one thing to toss in there. I'm not a psychologist. I don't pretend to be. I have worked with a psychologist on that last book project I did. And it seems pretty clear that for sporting endeavors and life endeavors in general, the more intrinsically motivated you are to do the task, meaning like how much fulfillment you get out of it just from doing it, rather than like other people saying like, hey, good job, the more it seems to be efficacious to you. Whereas like external reward systems are useful and can be beneficial, but are probably not going to be sustainable in the long term or get you to higher levels of development. So usually, like if you're putting so much value on the external, meaning other people looking at you and validating you, you might want to reevaluate why you're even doing the task in the first place, because it might not actually be that fulfilling to you personally. It might just be something that you enjoy getting the positive reinforcement from, but it might not actually be something that's really putting you into like a flow state, really engaging you, something you really wake up thinking about and want to challenge yourself with. That would be my take on it. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with saying like, I'm not actually into lifting. I'm into people like saying, hey, nice job. But that's the only part of it that I really enjoy. I'd rather be doing something else. Who knows? Maybe it's playing the saxophone or Doom Eternal. Either one. No judgment. But I would think about it if I were you.
How violent is Doom Eternal?
It's so violent that it goes full circle where you're watching, you're literally just ripping things apart and you're like, this is fine. This is normal. This is not violent at all. You know what I mean? The first few minutes are just like, oh my God. And then after like 10 minutes, you're like, no, this is fine. And you get like a chainsaw and just like shove it up some guy's ass and rip him. It's just like, I would let my child do this. This is fine.
Yeah. Marcos, other than the word dildo, James just described your last night in Chelsea.
I've been staying at home, Mike. I'm a responsible citizen.
Yeah, that's what you tell
But
everyone.
going back to like the shit that you said about like finding that feel and just focusing on that, I also think in conjunction with the right program, it's a good feeling when you go week to week and you see your numbers start to steadily climb. Just achieving those small goals, that should get you off nicely.
Get you off.
For me, that's like, at least nowadays, as an older lifter, that's become my thing. It's just trying to get.
It's called masters.
One more rep or
not older.
You're right. I am. I do compete in.
Lifter.
I can compete in anything masters now. Fuck.
Ageist dickhead.
Marcos, this one goes immediately to you, but everyone's going to weigh in on it. Bruce Leo says,
my brother
asks, is it really?
Yes.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Like he's your actual brother.
Yes, like my blood brother, my little brother.
He does martial arts.
Yes, he's in South Carolina, and there's pictures of us as kids there.
He trains at Henzo's.
He did when he was living here.
And he looks something like you. Wow, he looks a lot like you. Just ask that motherfucker if he wants a shot at the title. You know what I'm saying? Is he trying to fucking have beef with me, Bruce Leo?
Maybe.
I smell beef, baby.
You're leaving the rest of us in the dark here, Dr. Mike. What's he saying?
Oh, hold up. Let me get back to it.
God damn it,
he
Mike.
says, if you are weak-minded, can psychedelics help you get stronger?
Nope. You weak anyway.
Damn, that's harsh words from our psychedelic expert.
Yeah, you should talk about the time he did, I think it was 12 grams at my mom's by himself.
Oh, man.
It takes a strong mind to survive something like that. Maybe just a selection bias at that point.
He's been through some fun rides. And by fun, I mean not so fun. So
I feel like maybe he was having fun, but you weren't being around him.
I wasn't there. He told me about it days later.
Sweet.
Because he thought he was dying multiple times.
Yeah. James is the only one green to the shit, but maybe that'll change.
I've been entertaining the idea of microdosing because I don't want to go on like a full trip. I don't want that.
Don't do it.
Absolutely don't want
Don't do it.
Why not?
Here's the equivalent of microdosing. You have your trainer, a client comes in, and they're like, hey, I want really big legs. And you're like, how about you do one set of 10 squats per month?
Is it really that comparable, though? Because I've heard that, like, there's so much subconscious stuff going on. No? You need to do the macro before you do the micro to understand what it's like. What kind of micro protocols have you seen that you didn't think were useful?
Well, the James Fadiman one. He's the one who wrote the Psychedelic Explorer's Guide. Yeah. And he, I want to say, was one of the founders of the microdosing movement, and it's 0.3 grams every third or fourth day. Just doesn't do shit.
To mushrooms.
Yeah,
microdosing is kind of
the point is that it like does shit, but you don't realize it. That's like the purported benefit.
How do you know? You're like, oh my god, I could give you fucking sugar, fucking
right. There's a lot of placebo going on there.
Yeah.
James, what you may want to entertain is what has been described as a giggly dose of like mushrooms. Like basically a gram, you're gonna feel different, but it's like being really high, not even really high, like being pretty high on pot, but like all the good stuff about it and really none of the bad stuff. And you're just, everything is fucking hilarious. Like you get nervous, like a little nervous for like 15 minutes and you're like, ugh, but then everything's fucking hilarious for like 3 hours. And like stuff looks a little interesting, like not outright weird. And then like you see how you like it. And then you can always go next time, a month later, a gram and a half. And then after a bit of like, if you're like, wow, this actually I'm getting pretty high and I know how it feels to get anxious. I know where I'm going. Then you can do a bit more of a meat and potatoes dose, but all that stuff is fun. I would just like the gram above is like the gram to 2 gram range first time. I think it's great. Marcos disagrees. Oh, hold on, Marcos. We might end up agreeing more than you think. But below a gram, I think it's just kind of like.
So normally I would be on board with what you're saying. I heard a podcast with our boy Sam, and he was talking to some leading researcher who did I don't remember the guy's name. Don't rip my head off. But some psychedelics expert, and he was saying that with the microdosing, it takes a couple weeks or something for it to be tangible, but people start having some of the same feelings that they report as if they had gone on a trip with relatively small doses. And they said that the dose that they were taking, again, I don't know the numbers, but said that the feeling that they were getting was akin to like having like coffee, where they felt like a little bit of anxiety, but not like they were tripping, something like that. That's what kind of sparked my interest, because that I could do.
Yeah, but like weeks, man. So I don't consider myself functional on mushrooms, and I'm not.
That's the thing. So you wouldn't be tripping. You would be as if you had the like a cup of coffee.
I think you can always microdose. It doesn't do shit. But you can always do some microdosing later for enhancement or whatever.
Yes.
Like, on a chronic basis, if you dip your foot a little bit. I'm not, so a couple of my friends, Marcos included, are for like, you only, what is it? Chris said you only have one first trip. You might as well shoot yourself to the moon. I'm not so sure I agree with that, though I don't disagree.
I definitely don't agree with that.
Yeah,
well, here's the thing too. Well,
freaky.
I think from Chris's perspective, you're with, friends that you love in a safe space or a museum, whatever.
That's what James would be, right? A random museum in New York. You would be, James, you would be in that spot, though. James would be in that spot.
You guys would be fucking with me so bad. You'd be like, let's get on a plane to
plane. We're going to India.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm worried about. Like, let's get on this plane to Mumbai. And everyone's like, see, we got you to Mumbai. Isn't it great? And everyone's like, actually, this
James, I don't know what you think mushrooms are. Nobody can talk you into shit. You can't talk someone into anything more on mushrooms than otherwise.
I've gotten so sick of trying to explain to people, like with the microdosing stuff. And they're like, I don't want to lose control. And I'm like, have you ever been drunk? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, you literally have less control drunk. Have you ever been high?
Absolutely.
Yeah. You have less control when you're high.
Yeah, 100%.
Mushrooms,
you have plenty.
Or ayahuasca is my favorite. Did you shoot yourself? And I'm like, do you shit yourself? I could get up and go to the bathroom. I mean, I'm a little wobbly because I just fucking tapped out of the seventh fucking dimension, but it's totally fine.
So here's the thing with you mushroom people is you love to play it both ways, where on the one hand, you love to say like, oh, it's no big deal. And on the other hand, you're like, I was so fucked up. I couldn't move. And then I felt all these things and I was vomiting. And so you love to like over and under exaggerate on what the
guilty as charged, but that's dose dependent. So like the thing is like, so Marcos, can I volunteer some of our dosages to the public?
Sure.
So what we're recommending for you, James, is like a cool gram, as our friend Scott would say. And like that gets you, a gram gets you, if you've never done it, a gram will let you feel some shit, but it's so totally mild. And if you ever go, like if you start really, really freaking out, first of all, most people can just reassure you you're fine and you're totally fine. Also, you just have a Vicodin next to you. And if you start freaking out, just take a Vicodin and you'll be totally fine.
Nope. Don't put that fucking pharma poison in your blood.
Right. Vicodin gives me hot flashes and constipation. I have
whatever anxiolytic you want.
I have
and then the thing is, when we say like, oh my God, we were on a different planet, everything was cartoons, I had no idea what was going on. I mean, Marcos and I have taken anywhere between 5 and 10 grams at a time. And that shit is a whole. There's most people, when we say like Marcos and I with a few friends walked around the New York Museum of Natural History on 5 grams, which most people would say is just completely insane. We had a great fucking time.
Penis envy.
Oh yeah, it was just like totally. It was so wild. It was one of the greatest times.
Time out. Interjection. Going back to the previous question, if I've ever had fear about lifting, no, but fear about doing that every time I drink, yes. Continue.
Yeah.
Fear about penis envy?
It's a kind of mushroom. Yeah.
Favorite.
Yeah, it's just mushrooms look really weird, but they give you way crazier visuals. Put it this way, I was sitting in the planetarium and there were galaxies floating in the planetarium, like it was like going through.
Don't want that.
You don't have. We're not recommending this. This is not.
When I get drunk and my vision starts to get fucked up, then I start panicking.
Totally. Well,
I think you have a drinking problem, James.
Shit.
I mean, I don't dispute that at all.
Every time I drink, my eyes get crossed.
I'm drinking right now.
Woo! Hey, Marcos, you would
got my drinking horn.
What is that in there? Beer?
For now.
I saw an Intervention episode with the real alcoholic, and it,
dude, those are so gnarly.
Punchline sobered me up a lot.
Back
I was
to the mushrooms.
Whoa. Yeah.
Intervention.
Anyway, so I was basically the penis envy, these are super crazy visuals. I was looking at galaxies, but they were no longer galaxies. They had clustered into fighting skeleton demon armies. Like that was what I was seeing. But like, that's not for everyone. And that thing you can level up to. The first mushroom experience I ever had was hilarious. My sister and one of my best friends, no names. So a friend sold us, the three of us, mushroom chocolates. And they were like, dude, these things were like half a gram, some bullshit, right? But like, I was like, you guys are going to take them, right? And they're like, yeah. So I took mine. And like, did you guys take yours? Like I walked somewhere, came back, and we were at like a club, like bar/club in Ann Arbor, Michigan, college town. Right? No, Marcos, it was crazy.
Marcos, what
So I
are
was
you
like,
doing?
hey, did you guys take yours? And they're like, no. And they're like, ooh, I'm going to save mine. And then the friend was like, I'm going to save mine. I was like, great. I'm like, what about you, Sonia? And Sonia was like, my sister. And she was like, Mikey, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to do them tonight. And I was like, I already took mine. She's like, shit, well, you might as well take mine too, because fuck it. Just have a
Woo!
good time. And I was like, fuck yeah.
boy.
So I
Chug,
ate
chug,
hers.
chug.
And honestly, it was a great time. And I remember like that was my first real drug experience, but I had smoked weed before, did almost nothing. I had drank before, you know, alcohol for sure does stuff, but it was like, you know, drugs in the movies, everything's like, and you're like, wow, why haven't I ever taken a drug that looks like this? I walked out after the club and I looked at one of the street lights, like in the middle of the street, and I was like, that is profoundly three-dimensional. Like that is definitely not painted into the background. I could like the way I saw it was completely different. And I was like, holy shit, this is definitely a drug. And then I spent like 2 hours watching the leaves because I was like trying to fall asleep, but I couldn't, watching the reflection of leaves through like, you know, like if there's a lamppost behind a tree in your house, like at night, the tree does this on your walls. It was like all kinds of animals and all kinds of weird shit. And I was like, wow, like this is awesome. So that was like a gram basically. And it was like super pleasant time and it never was really freaky. I've taken other amounts that like, I've taken an amount that I had to Xanax out of because I couldn't understand what reality was anymore. But that was roughly 12 grams. And I probably should have waited another 20 minutes. I'd have been fine. So shit happens, man. But honestly, man, starting around a gram, I know Marcos isn't a big fan of it, but it's better than microdosing. It'll get you a good feel. You won't crazy freak out. And if you do, it's no big deal. No one's ever died from taking mushrooms, man. No one's ever
Honestly,
died
though,
either.
it depends. Mike is going to roll his eyes. It depends on what your intentions are. Are you just trying to have a fun time? Are you trying to do some introspection, some healing? Because like, see, here we go. Fucking go.
No, finish.
More in the latter.
Yeah.
You trying to do healing?
Yeah, I guess.
Well,
I don't feel like I need to be healed, but that would be more in line with
that
my
means
goals.
Well,
yes.
the thing is, like, just having fun does all that stuff anyway. Like, the mushrooms work one way or another. And as long as you're open to the experiences and you're ready for whatever comes, like, you don't even really have to have intentions to heal stuff. Like, if there's stuff that needs
I'm
attention,
not open. That's the problem.
They'll open your ass up.
I got you.
They will
Yeah.
open you up. You just have to remind yourself a little bit because there's times to get anxious for sure. And it's okay because through that anxiety, it's therapeutic, man. Like sometimes, and this is something Jared Feather has said, is the worst mushroom trips are the most therapeutic. So like if you have a really fun time, a lot of times you're like, that was amazing. And they're like, do you feel different? You're like, not really. But if you have a dog shit time, when the mushrooms start to come off, you feel a rebirth and your clarity is incredibly high.
Oh, look at you saying big words.
Like, yeah, you know what I'm saying, man? I'm like Terrence McKenna for life, baby.
What do I have to do to get the like Eddie Bravo, Alex Jones, open the doorway experience?
I mean,
Nobody
you have to
has
be mentally ill to begin with. Like,
You know
what's funny?
I have no flat earth drugs for you. I got nothing.
Open the
It's
doorway.
funny because like Marcos and I will hang out and do psychedelics together with other friends. And like, we are still like atheist, skeptic, scientific, capitalist assholes the entire time. There's not a single drug. I don't know where these drugs are. People that like, they're like
one of the most commonly reported symptoms of using psychedelics is having like a godlike or a religious like experience.
But we know that shit is based in neurology, so we take it for what it is. We're like, this is amazing. I'm having a truly amazing and actual deep experience of connectedness, but you have to believe in the superstitious to think it's superstitious. If you don't believe in it, it's not like you're going to be like, oh, God's real. You're like, look, I know
I just spoke to Jesus. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Right,
oh my God.
Yeah. Look, James, you're not a religious person. If you were, like, if you really believed in like in God, mushrooms would for sure, or if I can 100%, you would have a religious experience, but you're not. So you're going to have a spiritual experience. You're not going to lose your mind. You're not going to think like you can move objects with your mind. Like James, you've seen me how many fucking times high in mushrooms? Do I even appear to be different when I'm high in mushrooms? I'm like kind of like
you are,
and you're
a little
how
different.
Do you feel? Yeah, but like I'm not like losing my fucking. You're like, hey Israetel, do you want to put your hand in that vat of hot water?
The only
like,
time I saw you like pretty much, you didn't lose it, but you were like just gone. Was that time you just had so many edibles when we were in LA?
Yeah, that wasn't even mushrooms.
We were just like, Dude, Mike is.
I had trouble remembering.
He's no longer with us.
What happened a second ago? like I had no, it was like I ate like double the weed edibles I should have. And I remember being in the car and you would make a joke and I would laugh at it. And then I forgot if you had made a joke or if I had laughed at it. And I was like, did James just talk? Because then it was you and Mel up front in the
That's
car.
me every time I'm high.
Dude, we were driving at night
It's
and
not
we
a
were
good
driving
time.
up front and James would say something like, oh, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, ha, 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 ha. And then I was like, and it's just him and Mel up front driving. And I'm like, did anything just happen?
We were ordering food at that Din Tai Fung place, and it was so funny. We were just looking at
that
you.
time. Oh man, that was another. Yes, dude.
Oh,
okay,
you were thinking about when we went to
Vegas,
Las
the
Vegas.
Vegas trip,
Yeah.
because that was my first time getting that high. But the Din Tai Fung thing. Okay, so first of all, Mel and James give me a bunch of edibles, and I eat them all because that's what you do with edibles. So myself, Mel, James, and Crystal are walking around, and Mel and James are like, "Hey, do you guys want to go like to eat?" And there's this like mall in California, and we're gonna eat at this mall at this like what the fuck is that food called?
Dumplings.
Dumpling place. I was like, of course, yes. So I'm getting higher and higher and higher. We start walking around the malls. First of all, this mall is like 90% Asian, so I feel like I'm in a completely different country. So I'm like, holy fuck, this is awesome.
Orange
And then
County.
there's like groups of like Korean teens like interacting like teens do, and I'm like, like I feel like I'm in like a sociological experiment. I'm like, what? Because being around high school students when you haven't been one in a long time is like
It's weird.
really weird. What the fuck? And then I was like, okay,
Am I creepy? Am I in the wrong here?
Right, exactly. I was getting so high that my visual field was starting to condense, and I like had difficulty ambulating. So I was like, I literally, hey, James, did I tell you flat out, or did I tell you later? I was like, I may not be able to continue walking. So if I just want to sit down, I'm fine. I just cannot.
I don't remember.
Okay. I was considering telling you that because I was like, I may not be able to continue walking. Like that's how high I was.
Yeah, I'm not a
super
fan of the
anxious.
reverb.
Oh my god, the
I
best.
wasn't like, oh my god, but.
So we went to the restaurant. And there was a long wait. It was like an hour wait. So we were walking around the mall, and the mics. This one got me. We walked past one of those shops that had like bath bombs and like just like toiletries kind of stuff, but they all look like treats and like cupcakes and stuff. And Mike looks up to the window and he's like, "Oh!" And I don't remember who it was. It was either Mel or Crystal. They're like, "That's not real food. Like it's like a bath bomb." And Mike's disappointment on his face was like, "What?"
I wasn't only disappointed. I was shocked. I was like, "Wait, this isn't food."
What? You can't
like,
do
no,
this?
it's soap. And then I was like, like
No, it's
weird
soap.
thinking is weird because I was like, why would people make soap look like food? Like to me, there was no purpose in it whatsoever. There was no upside. It was like tons of work spent to replicate something that had no value of what it's like.
And you're like, no,
wow.
these guys are fucking with me. That's definitely food.
The thing is, like, I don't.
And then
so
the other
enough,
voice
right,
is like, it's not food.
everything's
it's actually
fine,
soap.
Mike. You're going nuts. The funny thing is I never get paranoid about people fucking with me. I just don't like. For some reason, I'm gullible as fuck or something. I just never think. And the thing is, also, I know Mel and I have been friends for so long. I know she's always fucking with me, so it's just a default that I'm just whatever. I just assume she's fucking with me. I don't mind. The real confusion started when we sat down to eat the dumplings. Because I had never been at a restaurant before where this lady explains the menu to you. She hung around.
Yeah,
the waitress hung around for like 15 minutes. She's like, now we have this and this, that. This is how you dip the stuff. And you should order this. And I was just like, and then she walks out. I'm like, James, am I just high or was that wholly unnecessary? You were like, that was way over the top. You can read and we can order whatever the fuck we want. So then the food was great, and I don't remember eating it much because I don't remember much of anything. And then I was high, and it was fucking awesome. So
and then you came back like boom. It was like all of a sudden you were just like, oh, I'm normal again, and we were like, oh, welcome back.
Yeah, totally, totally. I had another experience with Chris and Mel recently where we were hiking around and we just kept eating more mushrooms because they weren't really having the effect that we wanted. It was like, okay, weren't measuring them anymore. Marcos, you know what I'm saying? You know how we roll, the fucking measurement. And I was like,
trail
oh,
mix at
high
that point,
I'm
right?
not high. Yeah. And I was like a little high and I got more. And then I realized that like I was starting to get really high, but I had just eaten like the king of all mushrooms. And I was like, this is going to be interesting. So I told him, I was like, hey guys, I may not be able to move around or I may just be too high to hike. And they're like, okay, well, let us know. And so 20 minutes later, it's like, my visual field's like, it looks basically the same, open and closed eye. I was like, hey guys, just let you know, I'm really not here anymore. And I'm having a real hard time formulating my thoughts and moving. Is it okay?
Hey, Beelzebub and Mephistopheles. I'm going to have to sit down.
Exactly. Like, it's so funny because sit down, sir. Down you'll go. But like, they knew me long enough to, what's going on there, James?
There's like a procession of cars going through my neighborhood right now. What the fuck? No, but it's like it's like a condo neighborhood. There's never cars.
Condo funeral. Maybe
And there's like kids standing up out of the fucking sunroofs.
What the fuck?
Be like, hey, you fucking kids, shut up.
You need mushrooms.
Yeah, no, that's good. You wouldn't be able to say that if you're on mushrooms. But anyway, Chris and Mel both for at one point were like, because they were high as fuck too, and they were like, are you really actually super high? Because you sound fine. I'm like, guys, I know I sound fine because I always sound fine. I'm not. And I'm not freaking out, but I like I can't walk and speak at the same time. So they're like, okay, no worries. So we sat down and we just looked at trees for a while and we talked and like we bonded. And it was super great. And then like 30 minutes later, I was like, I'm okay. And then we like walked out. How was that? So I don't know. So it can be a lot, but then it's not.
We shall see. We shall see.
No,
I got you, James. I'll teach you the ways, because if you listen to Mike, it's gonna end up like a bad night at the museum.
Will you dress up like an ayahuasca shaman for me?
Oh, cool.
Sacrilege, I would never. Urban shaman, maybe.
Urban, okay, fair enough.
All right, ready?
I can't wait for you guys to come out to Montana and trip out there.
Totally, I'm on my way there.
Bro, 100%.
It's going to be amazing. There's going to be like deer bouncing around. You're going to be like, what's this?
Dude,
that's a grizzly bear. That's not a deer.
Yeah, then there's
it's okay. He understands me. Oh, man, that's a scary thing. Scary things on mushrooms are scarier. Sometimes they're not at all scary, and sometimes they're really fucking scary. I remember I walked into Brittany and Charlie. No, just Brittany. Charlie was along for the ride. Brittany was watching a Law and Order SVU, and there was like somebody had taken some people hostage, and he looked really evil. Except on mushrooms, he looked like he had like a skull that was melting all the time. He was like, it was just a regular guy, and I'm like,
he's the most evil guy ever.
Yeah, and like Liv in the show was like, okay, just take me, don't take anyone else. And I was like, Liv, oh my god! I was like, man, I gotta do this more often. It was great, really, really fulfilling. Marcos. Disco Brownie asks, this will be our last question. What do mirrors do with your psychology in a gym? Self-image, constant checking yourself in mirrors, etc.
I mean, I like looking at my form.
I know. Yeah,
really.
Right. Please. You flex in the camera so much. Anyway.
Have you ever gotten a really solid like down blouse shot from a mirror? Not like a camera, but just like just peeping, like
No,
directly for sure.
Yeah. What do you mean, no, Marcos? What are you talking about?
Marcos?
Well, directly, yes, but not mirror. I'm agreeing with a Cupcake over here.
Yeah, hoes be out here. You feel me?
I would never talk like that.
I always try to work. I try to be like discreet.
Creep.
Yeah, creep.
Like
yeah,
creep.
Definitely.
Yeah. Mirrors are a trip, right? Because you get used to looking at them, and then you like to look at yourself, and then they're not around, and then it's tough. They are sometimes pretty good for checking technique, and sometimes they can be a distraction from really focusing on mind-muscle connection and really good technique by themselves. So it's definitely, there's some pluses and minuses there. I prefer mirrors, but if they're not around, no big deal. So
it's funny when you get used to going without the mirrors and then you go back to mirrors for a session or two. It's real weird where you're like, whoa, wait a minute. That's me. I'm so ugly. God.
Congratulations. Welcome to mushrooms, James. Boom, there it is.
Yeah, literally, that's it. Like a giant mirror all around you.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of the mirrors just because I find that they tend to be distracting a lot. I don't know. I think once you get used to working without the mirrors and your technique's solid and you can really focus on mind muscle connection and just like the proprioception of your movement, I feel like you get more out of it. Sometimes the mirrors can be what's it called? A crutch for people when they're just like constantly watching what they're doing instead of really just focusing on getting what they're supposed to get out of it.
Mm-hmm. And I stay far away enough where I have to do the bodybuilder squint where I'm like,
do I have striations? Damn, Marcos.
You know what I mean?
Nice. Pec pop. Nice.
Marcos, what's your body fat percent?
Right now, I have no idea.
What is your max wrist curl?
Wrist curl? I don't do those, Mike.
Yeah, right. Sure
I have the wrist of a dancer, bro.
My body fat percent is like 60.
My man. Looking good.
Looking Jabba.
Folks,
We're wrapping up.
let's wrap it up.
All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Anybody want to make any plugs? Marcos, I tried to throw you a pitch last time, and you
This is pathetic.
Where can people find out more about you and what services you offer?
On my Instagram, and you can't afford me, Mr. Marcosis.
Dr.
You're
Mike?
welcome.
What a cocksucker. At RPDRMIKE on Instagram is where to best find me, and all the roads lead to everything else that I've ever produced from my bio. Link in bio.
Link in bio.
Are you sponsored by VersaGrips yet, Mike?
I am sponsored by V Shreds and Gymshark.
Okay, I'm gonna go fuck myself now. Thank you.
Nice. I'm RP Dr. James on Instagram. I don't post very much, but I do have a link tree in my bio now, which is like an adult.
My dog.
Adult. I'm a next step influencer. Anyways, we're going to wrap it up. Thanks for tuning in. See you guys next time.